Most of us do not spend all day, every day with our partners, but now we're spending a lot more time together. Hi guys, it's Ash, your truth-bombing fairy godmother for everything love, dating, and relationships. Last week I spoke about going through a breakup during this quarantine and isolation and the process of grieving the loss of a relationship or an ex-partner. So this week I want to speak about something similar, but that is actually on the opposite end of the spectrum, which is how to cope as a couple during quarantine for those of us who are in a relationship but are also in quarantine together. Although being stuck together in your own little bubble might sound awesome for some people, that certainly isn't the case for all of us. And I know a lot of couples are really struggling to navigate this sudden and very dramatic change in lifestyle together. So I wanted to share a few of my favorite tips and suggestions that I came across to help couples stay sane together and connected as possible during the madness that is this pandemic and therefore quarantine and isolation. But first, just a reminder to give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful or if it resonated with you at all. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for new love, dating, and relationship videos every single week. I know so many of us are experiencing so much anxiety as a result of the very bizarre circumstances all of us are finding ourselves in. And I know for me personally, this lack of certainty and lack of control over my life is just making me feel very uneasy, which is of course translating into my relationship as well, just due to feeling not myself and off and just very disconnected. This type of restriction and the stress and worry that we're feeling about our loved ones, that's massive for me because my whole family is in the US and the situation there right now is awful, as a lot of us know. This worry about our job security and financial stability, it's just a lot. I mean, quarantine is laughing at all of us who thought we were just going to be ultra productive with this time. She is laughing. Honey, don't let this color fool you. I decided to do a bit of reading to see how other couples were coping with this very strange set of circumstances. So I wanted to share my top 5 favorite tips that I found for how you as a couple can maintain somewhat of a sense of normalcy during this very abnormal time, and also how to stay healthfully connected during a crisis. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first one is to prioritize taking breaks from each other and ensuring to schedule in your own alone time. Alone time is important now more than ever, and given the obvious with quarantine and isolation, you have to be very intentional about planning that alone time, because in our day-to-day lives, most of us don't really have to plan that because we naturally get our separate time away from each other, and most of us do not spend all day, every day with our partners. But now we're spending a lot more time together. Coordinate a period of time every day where each of you can go and do a separate activity and do whatever it is that feels good to each of you at the time. Whether it's time to call a friend and actively connect with someone else, or take a nap, exercise, watch some porn, masturbate, have a nice warm bath, whatever it is that feels good, ensure you book that time in and prioritize it every single day. Most relationships or marriages do not operate well when you are with each other every second of every damn day. So ensure you make your alone time a sacred, scheduled part of your day for and by yourself. Make your alone time a sacred, scheduled part of your day for and by yourself to really reconnect, recenter and check in with yourself. Which leads me to my second tip, and something I'm not doing nearly enough, which is to create a bit of a schedule for yourself. Most of us rely on some type of schedule or routine to maintain a sense of stability and to combat things like anxiety and depression. So in addition to this tip being especially relevant for people who do deal with things like depression and anxiety, which, hi, hello, it's also just as relevant for couples who normally don't work from home and therefore aren't used to being around each other so damn much. Sit down together as a couple and write up a bit of a rough schedule for your days, such as what time you're getting up, work hours, lunch breaks, exercise hours, alone time, things like that, so that you can somewhat replicate a more normal-ish routine. The third tip, and one that was mentioned in last week's video as well, which is simply allowing yourself to grieve the change that is happening, and also allowing your partner to grieve the change that is happening as well. We are all dealing with so much change right now, and that in itself is a type of trauma. People are naturally drawn to what is most familiar to them. We are creatures of comfort and habit, both things that have been ripped away from us. I know for me personally, this feeling of being completely out of control is really scary, and chances are if you're feeling that way, your partner is very likely feeling that way too. So in addition to honoring your own grief, anxiety, and fear, it's important to acknowledge and care about those feelings within your partner as well. Practice showing empathy and compassion towards yourself and your partner, and really cultivating a space where you can both feel safe to be open and honest about any difficult emotions you might be having, and perhaps any shared experience of grief you might both be having as well. The fourth tip, which sort of ties into the last one, is to be very intentional about your communication with one another. Communication is important at any time, but it is especially important now, given the lack of personal space and therefore the higher likelihood that you might become a bit snappy, to say the least. Now more than ever, practice learning how to fight well, which means being empathetic, which we spoke about, but also refusing to engage in any type of minimizing, belittling, and especially no name calling. We are much more likely to lose our shit for what feels like no reason right now, or be a bit rude when we aren't feeling like the best version of ourselves. So try and practice a bit of extra understanding and grace towards one another right now. And also keep the conversations as light and as friendly as possible. Now, amidst a crisis, is not the time to attempt to tackle any big underlying issues in the relationship. Call a truce, make a pact with one another to wait to raise any hot topics until this is well and truly over. The fifth and final tip, which I absolutely loved, is to focus on cultivating a strong foundation of friendship with your significant other right now. Couples who have a very strong but gentle and intimate friendship as the basis for which their romantic relationship sits have a much easier time coping with immense stress or a lot of change. The foundation of friendship is a soft space to fall when the world is otherwise not feeling so soft and safe. And it can also make your time together a lot more enjoyable. Ways to cultivate this friendship is to share fondness and admiration and appreciation for one another and sharing it out loud. This is something that we tend to do a lot more at the beginning of a relationship, but as time goes on, it's something that kind of dies off. Find things to compliment your partner on or vocalize your appreciation when they do something helpful or they've done something that you liked. Say a lot of pleases and thank yous. make them feel seen and appreciated, because if they're feeling this from you, it will naturally lower stress and frustration levels. Another way of cultivating friendship is to simply take advantage of this time together by doing some fun activities. Do some crafts, redecorate, maybe a fun DIY project, make a list of fun things that you've been wanting to do together so that you have something to look forward to. Whatever, just leave the budget making and the finance talk for another day. Unless that's your thing, then you do you. Okay guys, that's pretty much it for today, but in summary, your partner needs more love, kindness, and compassion right now more than ever. And if you really use this time to be as empathetic towards each other as possible and really making the conscious choice to meet each other wherever it is that each of you are at emotionally, this could actually be a time where you could grow a lot closer instead of allowing the situation to drive you further apart. But for many of us, we definitely are going to have to bring a level of intentionality to ensure that that happens, to ensure that this really shit set of circumstances doesn't break you. If you have any other tips for how you've been navigating quarantine and isolation and social distancing together as a couple, please comment them down below because I would absolutely love to hear them. But if anything, if you are struggling, please know that you are not alone. We're all in this together, and this will end eventually. See you next time.